Hey guys, this is our group for our discussion. I'm Cameron.
I'm Adrian.
I'm Ryan.
Jacob.
And we're going to start off. Alright? So let's see here.
Your questions first.
Okay, I want to ask.
Is Scout a reliable narrator? Explain. Why might Lee have chosen Scout instead of Jim or Atticus?
So Scout may not be the most reliable narrator because Scout's the youngest one. Scout is the most immature, but because Scout is so young, she's able to see everything differently than the older kids or Atticus. Atticus isn't a good narrator for this because he's not in the book a lot. He doesn't really have himself involved with what the kids are doing all the time. And Scout just has that fresh mind. Jem would be the ideal narrator because he is older, he understands what's going on, and he just has a better idea of everything that they're going through. But because Scout is so young and has such a fresh mind, that's who's narrating the book.
Can I add on to that? I think Scout is a very reliable narrator because, yeah, she's the youngest, but she has a relationship with everyone. Like with Atticus, she agrees with him, or with Jem, that's obvious right there. And with Dill, in the book it says that Dill asked her to marry him. Or, I don't know, Miss Naughty, they talk because Dill and Jem just neglected her. And, I don't know, she can see everyone's point of view because she has a strong relationship with everyone.
Right, to add on to that, I think Jem wouldn't be a reliable one because he's really close-minded on some of the topics, such as like the Radleys. He would change the names of the people or the characters in the game that they would play, like that would the Radley game, I guess you could say. He would change the names so that Atticus wouldn't know. And he's just, in some situations, he's a good narrator. In some situations, Scout's better. But overall, I think Scout's the more reliable narrator.
Adding on to what everyone has said, like Cameron said, Scout does see things from a different view of perspective since she's so young-minded. She's learning everything as it comes.
Alright, let's move on. Jem and Scout call Atticus by his first name. What does this say about the type of relationship they have?
By Scout and Jem calling Atticus by his first name, that kind of is saying something that they might not be close as a relationship, like since Atticus is their father, but that can also say that they're comfortable enough with each other to be calling him that. And on page 6 of chapter 1, Scott mentions, our father played with us, read to us, and treated us fine. So that is kind of saying that they don't have a bad relationship. He's just very mature with them.
So that's good. At first, when I saw this question, I thought maybe that they didn't have a good relationship. Maybe that's why they didn't talk to each other like they did and they called him by his first name. But seeing that in the book, like Adrian just mentioned, is that it proves that they do have a good relationship. You guys want to move on? Okay.
Alright. Describe the incident regarding Miss Caroline and Walter Cunningham. What about the conversation between him and Atticus later on? Well, if you recall in the story, do you guys remember this incident where Miss Caroline and Walter were in the classroom and Miss Caroline's checking their lunches, right? And Walter didn't have a lunch, so she assumed that he didn't bring it or he forgot it. Little did she know that they were just at the low class, that he didn't have a lunch.
Okay.
I don't remember if he was the one that didn't have shoes. I could be wrong, but
I don't believe he did have shoes.
yeah, all that happened, right? Miss Caroline offered 3/4. He didn't take the 3/4, and then she got mad. But then Scout stepped up to try to explain who he was, just by telling him what his last name was. He's a Cunningham, right? And later that day, Jem, Scout, and Walter all went to Jem and Scout's house for lunch, and they had a big lunch, right? Walter was piling food onto his plate, and then eventually he got to the syrup, and Jem and Scout were confused on what was happening. And that wasn't even the most confusing part because Walter and Atticus were having a conversation about crops, right? and it was just full of confusion because in Gem and Scout's words, they were confused on what was happening, and it sounded like an actual adult conversation about the props that was happening. Well, that's basically what I got from the conversation between those two.
I think that situation puts it into perspective for Gem and Scout because they never really were used to being poor or anything. Seeing that Cunningham or Walter is so mature and he doesn't take any money because he can't pay it back. It just is a humbling experience. It's weird, but it's
From that experience, you can really tell where the not where it is with the time frame, like the way they live, he's running barefoot. You can tell he's like poor. So really like.
Let's cover it.
I'm gonna have to roll
Page 30. First of all, if you can learn a simple trick, Scout, you'll get along a lot better with all kind of folks. You never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb into his skin and walk around in it. Why is this such a valuable lesson? Describe the way you can use this in your own life.
Alright, so this quote teaches the reader to stand in one's point of view, and it's something that people fail to do. A lot of people fail to do today. Disregarding someone's point of view shows a lack of maturity and just unwillingness to truly work something out. And if one doesn't put themselves in somebody else's shoes, in any argument or any situation, no progress will be made. And personally, I can use this in any relationship I have, whether it be friendships, romantic relationships, or just family. And if I can put myself in somebody else's shoes in the midst of an argument, it would help in finding a quick solution to any problem.
Yeah, this quote by itself shows how you can give a sense of respect to each other, because if you put yourself in someone else's shoes, they can be going through some things or not, but it's different for everyone. It varies. That's what I thought when I saw the quote.
From the quote, like Jacob said, you can see it today. People being made fun of because of what they wear or how they act. You never know what's going on with them in their personal life, which is not what we see, physically.
That's good. That's good. You guys covered it. We're gonna move on. Why are the Ewolls, right?
Yes, I don't know how to pronounce it either.
Why are the Ewolls so different from the rest of the people in the town? Why do officials bend the rules for them? Is it right?
So, when I came across this, I recall the Ewolls. Ferris Ewell, to be exact, and how he acted in class, but I'll start from the beginning. So the Ewells are they're different from the rest of the people because they're the lowest of the lower class, right? Words that can describe them are disgraceful, mean, uneducated, and savages. The way they live isn't anywhere close to the upper class, and the people of that higher class see the people as the lowest of the lows. On page 22, Scout had tried to explain who the Ewells were, and everybody but the teacher understood, if you guys remember. Mind you that Miss Caroline, the teacher, didn't know who this person was. So an official as a teacher didn't know who was part of what class. That's what I'm saying. So Ferris Ewell. The Ewells go to school for a day, and the rest of the year they're absent because they're forced to come to school. And they're also poor, so they can't really afford things to come to school. Earlier in the book, by a page, on page 26, Miss Caroline points out to a kid who is named Ferris Ewell. Ferris is the one who had a cootie in his hair. I assume that's a type of parasite because they mentioned host, and I was like, the teacher bent the rules there for him so he can go home and fix his personal hygiene. Do you remember when Miss Caroline was telling him to go home because he had this parasite in his hair and she screamed? Yeah. This is an example because his conditions would affect the classroom population. This is the right thing to do for the classroom, but for Burris, no, because sending him home won't teach him anything, for his personal hygiene, to be exact.
And I agree with that. I mean, they kind of changed the rules for them because they don't get the necessities or the personal hygiene that other people get. So there are some things about them where the teachers or officials, they kind of feel bad for them.
Yeah.
So they change the rules to make their lives easier or better, but there's not much that they can do about it.
I don't think changing the rules for them helps them in any way. I think punishing them for the things that they do is actually a better form because maybe they'll learn and actually work harder and try to get somewhere in life. But if they keep just being what's the word for it? I don't know.
I
Just being nice to them, I guess. Then they're not going to go anywhere in life, and they're going to keep living up to that you obey.
Adding on to what Jacob said, bending the rules for them isn't really going to do anything. It's just like motivate them to be like, oh, we have specific rules, we can do whatever we want, type of thing.
So I think we're done here. So the next question is, what do you think the real issue is between Scout and Miss Caroline?
So Miss Caroline and Scout, they kind of had a argument, I would say. Not really an argument because Scout didn't really argue. But Miss Caroline was very intimidated by Scout's ability to read and Scout's ability in the classroom. Miss Caroline someone mentions that Miss Caroline has a new way of teaching, and her way of teaching is different than normal, but Scout is already ahead of that learning curve, and a lot of the kids aren't up to his level, or her level, sorry. So the teacher, Miss Caroline, she's kind of intimidated that she won't be able to teach her as much as the other students because she's already ahead. So she tries to slow her down, but that's just not going to work for her. Scout's already above the level for everyone else.
Yeah, Jem mentions that they did switch the system from the old system, I forgot what it was called, to the new system, which is the Dewey Decimal System. There was mention of it, and I think Miss Caroline was really shocked when Scout was able to read, because I think in that passage, Miss Caroline was trying to test Scout and trying to humiliate her in front of the class, but then obviously Scout showed her up because she reads outside of class with Atticus.
I mean, that can really say something about the teacher, because having low expectations for your students, regardless of where you are, that's kind of like saying something. You should be proud that Scout can read, be in advance instead of just setting low expectations of them.
Yeah, because you should what's it called? It should be easier on Miss Caroline. She should be happy for Scout because that's one less person to teach. Because most of these kids are coming back to first grade for their second or third year, and Scout obviously is going to go into second grade with the first try.
Everyone good with that?
I think so.
Well, that's going to conclude all of our questions. We're out of time.
Yeah, I agree.
We're all out of time for our questions. So thank you. We hope you enjoyed.
She kind of, I guess she